So my passion for sports cars started back. I was 5, 6 years old, and like most kids back then, got into Hot Wheels, had the different cars, and I had an uncle that was into sports cars and sports car racing, and he had all the old Car and Driver and Road and Track magazines, and he got me into the appreciation of sports cars and exotic sports cars, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Maserati back then, but also, you know, Corvette, muscle cars back then were a big thing. Even to the point where, you know, I'm this 5 or 6 year old little kid. He had this album that he would play racing cars go by, and these were Cobras and Jaguars, Ferrari, Corvette, and it was just the sound of the car, the racing car on the straightaway, you know, it was like zzz, and he'd quiz me on it. Okay, which one is that one? So here I am, this little 5-year-old kid who could tell the difference between a 427 Cobra going down the straightaway between a Jaguar XKE or a Ferrari Daytona. That's when my passion for sports cars started, and that translated through the years. I mean, I got a little bit older. I got my first slot car set. I had the Ferrari 512 and Porsche 917. I remember when Steve McQueen made the movie Le Mans. So through the years, I've owned several sports cars, from Corvette, Nissan Z cars, Porsche, but Ferrari was always that unobtainable car. It was just out of my reach financially, or if I thought I could afford it, I would look at the upkeep, the repair costs, and some things I had heard, and a lot of the stories I'd heard about owning Ferrari just weren't true. So it came to a point here in the last few years that, or last couple years, I was looking for another sports car, specifically a Corvette. At the time, had a Mazda Miata. Wanted something a little bit more powerful. I was going back to a Corvette. So I was doing the internet searches for a Corvette, maybe a Z06. And I said, you know what? I don't know why the thought came across, but let me put in there Ferrari. And I put in there the budget I had in mind. And lo and behold, a couple cars came up, but specifically the one that I ended up buying. It was, at that point, it just seemed real surreal that, wait a minute, now I've had all these Corvettes, these cars that I felt were maybe one step from what I really wanted, and now I had that opportunity to get the car that I really wanted. So my wife and I, we drove to Atlanta the next weekend, picked it up, brought it back, and now here I am with a Ferrari, and never thought I would ever own one. So the Ferrari I ended up with is a 1990 Ferrari 348 TS. It's one of the last Ferraris Enzo Ferrari had a hand in on the design of the car, which is actually designed by Pininfarina. Some things I like about the 348 is, one, it's mid-engine. It has a really wide stance. When you look at it from the rear, I mean, it just looks like a racing car. You get in it, you drive the car, and it's like driving a go-kart. I mean, it just handles so well. Also one of the last few Ferraris that doesn't have all the traction control, stability control. I think the only thing it has is anti-lock brakes. It's a gated 5-speed. I mean, that was something, every sports car I've ever had, I wanted something that was a manual transmission. The overall feel of the car when you're driving it, you're just planted to the road. Yeah, it's not overly, with 300 horsepower, it's not a car that has brake backing, acceleration, but the car is fast. Just the way it handles. I've recently had a Corvette Z06. This car to me just handles so much different than the Corvette did. Finally owning a car that was part of that history in my growing up and coming into adulthood and through the years. I mean, it just owning one just has more of a meaning than just going out and buying a car. So there's faster cars out there that I could have spent money on, more reliable cars, but when you buy a Ferrari, you're buying it because it is a Ferrari. So finally, after years of owning, I'd say a lot of cars, a lot of sports cars, muscle cars, finally getting to the point of having a Ferrari, it's just hard to explain or express in words, how that feels. Maybe I'll own some other sports cars, but I finally got the car that I've always wanted.